A homeless man who stalked and attacked a mother and daughter in Gżira has been arrested. Malta's inclusion minister rolls out temporary wooden ramp for wheelchair users to access her office, and St. Paul Festa in Valletta gets go-ahead for seated event this Thursday. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening, everyone. Johnathan, Cilia here, joined by Diacono. Today, we've got a range of stories coming from the islands, so definitely stay tuned for those stories, as well as for a very special guest interview today. We've got lawyer Fleur Abela in the house to talk to us a little bit about the new femicide bill. But before that, let's just jump right into the first story, Tim.
Yes, police have arrested an allegedly homeless man following a mother's claim that he had attacked her and her daughter while they were walking in Gżira. So the mother took to a popular Facebook group for expats earlier today to recount her experience. That a homeless man attacked her and her daughter, hit her, pulled her hair, and threw lit cigarettes at her daughter, and then to make things worse, stalked them, followed them. And she said she was doing this to raise awareness. Other people recounted similar experiences in the same area, not known but suspected to be the same person. Similar incidents of harassment. Obviously, the Paulina Dębska murder is still fresh in everyone's minds, so many people are asking the police to take immediate action, and it seems like they have. Police confirmed at Lovin Malta that they have arrested this man, although it's too early to tell whether any charges will be issued. So let us know in the comment section if you think homelessness is a growing problem in the country.
You know, I can just imagine how, scared the mother and daughter must have felt. Like you just said, we had the Dębska case just a few weeks back. So it's good to see that the police have kind of taken action here. Now it's, they're going to see if there's any mental health issues or if there's something else here. So definitely stay tuned for more developments on this story. Moving on to the next story, a bit of an interesting one coming from Barzabuja. Malta's inclusion minister, Giulia Farrugia-Portelli, has clarified why she uses a temporary wooden ramp that gives access to wheelchair users to her office. So yesterday she had published a photo of herself with a man in a wheelchair, and a lot of people, among them former PL delegate Mark Camilleri, had questioned why the inclusion minister doesn't have a permanent ramp to access her office. Camilleri had even said something like, quote, "The memes write themselves in the Banana Republic." Lovin Malta reached out to Farrugia-Portelli to kind of get a better understanding of this, and she actually explained that it would be illegal if she had a permanent ramp there. It would be blocking the pavement. It's not a very large pavement down there in Barzabuja. So the temporary ramp, which is a wooden ramp that we actually have images of if you want to check out how it looks on lovinmalta.com, is actually the best method here. So a bit of interesting nuanced story here. At first glance it did kind of seem strange that the inclusion minister wouldn't have an accessible office, but I guess with the reality with the small pavements in Malta, it kind of does make sense to have a temporary wooden ramp.
Yeah, no, obviously accessibility is a major problem for wheelchair-bound people in Malta. Pavements are what they are, but at least it's good to see that this compromise solution was found before it was flagged and not after it was flagged. So problem averted. Moving on, another problem has been averted. The St. Paul's Shipwreck Festa will happen in Thursday, despite concerns that it was cancelled due to COVID-19 restrictions. Discussions were underway between enthusiasts and the health authorities, and the compromise is that the event will be a seated event this Thursday, public holiday, organized according to the latest health protocols, which allow seated events to take place, but not standing events. So what will happen is the revered statue of St. Paul will be taken out during this event, and instead of the enthusiasts gathering around, they're going to be seated, and we'll have a better view, I suppose, of the statue, while the band will play traditional music, sitting down and not standing up. So good to see a compromise has been found. It would have been a shame if this feast would have been left to die for this year. At this stage, I honestly don't get why standing events just don't come back, to be honest.
Yeah, and let's be clear, fest enthusiasts had really raised their voice over this specific fest over the last few weeks. There was actually a petition online that got over 600 signatures. So if you do want to attend the event, it's in Valletta this Thursday at 6:30. It would be very interesting to kind of see, a traditional, typical Maltese festa where everyone has to be seated. You know, like when I think of processions in Mostar, where I come from, there's lots of people walking with the procession, a lot of people walking with the statues. So it'll be very interesting to kind of see how this plays out on Thursday.
Lose a lot of the spirit, obviously. But
We'll have to see on Thursday. Hopefully, this is the last time we see a festa that has some seated component. Hopefully, maybe by summer, maybe by next February, we can return back to full-on festas. From one celebration to the next, a bride-to-be has sent an open letter to Prime Minister Fleur Abela as well as Health Minister Chris Fearn, asking them to, let us know when the general election will be happening, because she has a wedding to plan. It's going to be in Violet, and she does not want her wedding to clash with the election. So Abigail Kassar sent a letter to Lovin Malta as well as to the aforementioned politician saying, listen, I'm going to be tying the knot on 5th June this year, and she's hearing rumors that there could be an election on 4th June, and she's very, very worried that, the election will kind of, ruin her wedding, ruining her big day, her and her husband-to-be big day. She said, addressing Abela, she said, quote, please, before agreeing on an election, keep in mind that the weekend is the busiest for weddings. Obviously, it is the first weekend in June. It's typically a very sunny weekend. So it just goes to show how many people, including brides-to-be and their soon-to-be husbands, are really waiting on this blessed general election date.
yes, so there were a lot of rumors that the Prime Minister was going to announce an election last Sunday for mid-March. He didn't, and now the rumor mill has started moving again, this time towards June, towards the early weeks of June. Obviously, by June, the election will have to be held. The reality is no one knows when it's going to happen. I don't even think the Prime Minister knows himself for certain when the date is going to be held. That is keeping people in suspense. I think there's a certain amount of enjoyment to be had from it. But honestly, if you're planning your wedding and don't want to clash, I would recommend holding it after June. And finally, ultra swimmer Neela Juice has revealed just how badly sunburnt his back was after his record-breaking swim from the Italian island of Malta to Gozo last summer. So, as you well know by now, Neil broke the record for the world's longest unassisted swim in open water last summer, swimming 52 kilometers non-stop. And it wasn't just physically exhausting, it was also very, very trying on his body, to the point where, according to looking at the photos he posted, skin was literally peeling off his back and face. It must have been it must have been painful, and exhausting at the same time. And also things we didn't see, which is the fact his tongue was pitted with holes and the inside of his mouth full of ulcers. He said, for days I was blowing my nose and finding pieces of skin on the tissue.
Jesus.
So yeah, despite the pain though, Neil said it was all worth it. If his mammoth swim inspired people to reduce their carbon footprint, work hard and follow their dreams. The big question is, Neil Adu sets himself a new swimming challenge traditionally every summer. We don't yet know what this year's will be. Personally, I'm hoping he tries to swim from the coast of Tunisia to Malta.
That would be brilliant. I mean, listen, Neela Juice is a Maltese living legend. We had interviewed him on Lovin Daily just a couple of days after he had done this world record-breaking swim. His body was literally in tatters. I don't even know how he showed up for the interview. He had shown me his back and his tongue, and it was like, something I'd never seen before. Interesting, he spoke about how difficult it was to apply sunscreen while he was swimming. Eventually, because, he had to stay in water all the time. He could never enter the boat. Eventually, it got very difficult for sunscreen to be applied all down his back as he's treading water. His shoulders were hurting as well. So it just goes to show kind of the logistics of doing such an incredible endurance run. That brings us to the end of the first part of today's episode. We're going to cut to a quick video, and when we're back, we'll have lawyer Fleur Abela here to talk to us about the new femicide bill.
Welcome back to Lovin Daily. With me now is lawyer Fleur Abela. Thank you for accepting to be on Lovin Daily today.
Thank you for the invitation.
So, Fleur, many people are very happy and very pleased at the way the government reacted so quickly to the murder of Paulina Dębska, by actually introducing a law specifically criminalizing the act of femicide. However, there's also been quite a lot of questions on the details of this law itself, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. So, what was the law meant to address exactly? And crime of passion, it's been removed completely from the law.
So, let me explain one thing. The way the law was drafted, it wasn't drafted to create femicide as a separate and distinct offence, in the sense that these are considerations that the court shall take when deciding on voluntary homicide in the case of femicide, which means wherever a man or a boy kills a woman or a girl. That is the definition of femicide according to what we found. Some have argued that there are various definitions, but according to what experts from our end and the consultation undertaken have gone to state that femicide is the act of killing done by a man on a girl or a woman. Now, as the law is a result of the heinous crime and the heinous murder of Paulina Dębska. It came to the fore and the government introduced this bill on the 1-month anniversary of the murder of Paulina Dębska, as well as of the 2-year anniversary of Chantal Kauki, because it's very important to remember that there were other murders besides Paulina Dębska which needed to be addressed. And I think this law in reality is a tribute to them, to their memory and to the fact that such heinous crimes cannot happen anymore in our island. What this law intended to address is the act of femicide in terms of the criterion of misogyny, of violence by a member of the family, in the case of family reputation, perpetration, honor crimes, if it was committed due to motives based on the gender, on the sex, on the gender identity or the sexual orientation of the person, in the case of trans and non-binary people.
Okay.
So it also addresses that particular aspect, which hasn't been spoken of. Not only does it speak of the heinous crime of voluntary homicide, but it also speaks of the attempt of voluntary homicide, therefore where the homicide itself wasn't completed. With regard to the crime of passion, there were some who have argued the crime of passion should have been removed in total, entirely. This has been discussed, but the current way the bill is drafted to reflect the crime of passion has been removed as what we call a scusant in Maltese, as an excuse in the case of femicide. Therefore, the case of crime of passion will not apply wherever there is femicide.
Okay.
Again, it's important to highlight this is not a separate and distinct offence within the criminal code. It is a consideration of the court. Why? Because homicide carries the highest possible punishment at law, which is life imprisonment. Therefore, it wouldn't have made particular sense to have another offence which reflects the same gravity, because in reality, the act in itself is the act of voluntary homicide. There are some European countries who have decided to create a separate and distinct offence, such as some states in Spain, because Spain is a federal state, federal government, and Cyprus currently has a bill in Parliament, but it is stuck in Parliament due to the same considerations that the government has taken. So let us be clear, this is not the first law within the European Union which has been drafted on femicide, but there have been various others in that respect.
So crime of passion, it's been removed. Just to understand, it's an aggravated offence, femicide, to a murder?
Not an aggravation. It's not an aggravation. It's a consideration, meaning, for example, the court has before it a crime where a man killed a woman. And there you have the offence of voluntary homicide. What the court will do, it will consider the fact that this was a femicide, look into the criteria listed and say, listen, these are the considerations I have to take, therefore I will not go for the minimum, but I will go possibly for the maximum. That is really and truly why it's a consideration and not an aggravation. An aggravation would mean that you have the highest punishment +1 plus a degree, which is not the case over here.
Okay, and will women still be able to plead crime of passion as a mitigating factor if they kill a man?
Yes, they will still be able to.
Why? What's the logic?
The logic is we need to look at it from the perspective of where we started from, which is we have had murders where women have been killed, and when you look at the statistics of who kills who, the statistics show that women are more likely to be killed by a man than a man to be killed by a woman. Why? One, you've got the mitigating factor of physical strength, you've got the mitigating factor of even psychological effects, so there's all of this to take into account. By removing the crime of passion as an excusable offence, you've automatically given the woman who is more susceptible to homicide another addition of protection, as opposed to what they had before.
So, to clarify, if a woman kills her lesbian partner, if a man kills his gay partner, will this apply at all?
No.
It's just solely for a man who kills a woman?
It's solely, as the law is written now, it's solely for a man to kill a woman. However, it's important to state that there will be what we call a committee stage in Parliament, meaning where changes can be made. And if there will be other issues that will need to be looked into, or maybe there haven't been some legal clarifications and there are legal clarifications that are necessary, I don't see why the government will not take it into consideration. And I say take it into consideration because there have been consultations with NGOs, with women organizations, NGOs specifically, providing for women protection and women's rights, who have agreed to this bill, including with the crime of passion.
I mean, they would agree, but other people may not. So, will it only apply to women? When you say women, is it adult women or even girls?
Even girls.
Even girls. And young boys?
Young boys are not covered by this law.
So
you have in that respect, you have, again, it's important to note that you've got the offence of willful homicide, but when it comes to punishment, there is no change. The punishment is still going to be 5 to 20 years.
But why should someone...
To life imprisonment, sorry.
But why should someone have... why should this consideration apply if you kill a young girl, but not if you kill a young boy?
Because at the end of the day, this is a consideration specifically for femicide. Femicide is the act of killing a woman and a girl, and not the act of killing a young boy or a man.
But even though the strength factor then wouldn't even play a part?
That is femicide, and I will stand by my statement.
Okay, so the couple of lawyers, including former Judge Giovanni Bonello, has said this is discrimination against men.
Yes.
How do you respond?
I respond by saying that there are international charters, for example, the Istanbul Convention, if I'm not mistaken, Article 4, which specifically provides for the fact of femicide, where you've got a sex which needs further protection, and in this case, women needed further protection.
And finally, what has the feedback been like from the public and from women themselves? Have women responded, in your opinion, positively to this bill? So,
from my experience, at least from what I've seen, women have responded positively to this bill. Why? Because it gives them an additional protection. With regard to the public, I'm very aware that there are split views. The same applies even within the legal sphere. You've got some who agree and some who don't. But I believe that when you look at it from the social aspect, when you look at it from what happened in the past, and the heinous murders which have taken place, I think this is a good step forward to be able to fight for women's rights and their protection even further.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's been an interesting discussion which will be had once this enters Parliament and in the public sphere as well.
For sure.
Fleur Abela, thank you very much for being with us here today. Thank you very much for following us on Lovin Daily. Make sure you follow lovinmalta.com for all the latest updates, and have an evening full of loving.